Hey, welcome everybody. My name is Nicole Powell. I'm here tonight with Tanet Boudah. She's a doula, a author, and a mother, Northside resident. I'll let her continue to introduce herself.
Yeah, peace, love, liberation, everyone. It's an honor to be here. We've been talking about conversations on the north side around these topics for a long time. I think the introduction was great. I'm trying to balance all of those hats, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the north side grow.
Yeah, tonight, I got you here because I know you're really known in the city, but people probably know your face, but really don't know your story. So you could share a little bit about where you from, how long you've been here, what you do, what led you to the work you do, your family, and also if you could share like a favorite recipe that we could talk to the guests about, the community about. We could share it out with them or whatnot. But you could start off at any part of that and just flow with the conversation.
For sure. So I was born and raised on Detroit's west side. I'm an adoptee on my paternal side, and I left Detroit when I graduated high school. Went to high school in Chicago, and then I came to Minnesota in 2007 to go to college. I went to Carleton College. It's about 45 minutes away from here. That was my first time hearing about Minnesota. It was my first time coming here. And I was a English major at first, and then I transferred to be an education major, and that was actually my connection to the North Side. I used to teach in a program called Learning Works, and it was a breakthrough program. And ironically, we had some Northside scholars that were in the diverse program that kind of changed my trajectory around teaching and my connection here. So I would be at school, and then I would travel to the cities to work with them in the summer, and then job opportunities started. After Carleton, I went to grad school in Boston. Thought I was going on a track to be a social studies teacher. About a year into my journey, I got a call from actually my manager at the Learning Works, and she was like, "We have a program here, and we want you to direct it." I was like pregnant with Maya. It was like in November. Maya was due in January, and so I was like, "Yo, I'm pregnant. Like I'm in Boston. I'm really settled here." And she told me about the program, and I kind of fell in love with it. So I made the transition back to Minnesota when Maya was 3 months old, and I went back to work full time. But along the way, my motherhood journey, so I've been studying kids and like psychology and connections and trying ways to use my childhood trauma in classrooms and to be a youth leader in a way that I saw fit for us. Along the way, there's been so many like Northside connections, but we lost one of our scholars on the North Side, and I really just wanted to ground here and set my roots here. And so I didn't know anything about birthing or breastfeeding or motherhood, but I knew that my scholars were missing something, that was valuable to them in an individualized way. And so what started to happen was after I had my daughter, I really wanted to return to the classroom. However, I was unpartnered. I just had moved away from my family. I started this job with Teach for America and Northside Achievement Zone. They were partnering with University of Minnesota, and they were bringing this, they were trying to bring community like education here. And that kind of set me on like the connections to see like some of my scholars were struggling, like when their mothers would have babies and they had them back to back and they weren't getting certain things. So I started to realize like, one, like each child needs that individual care, and two, like the experience of their pregnancy. And now years, like my daughter's almost 9, but years later, I'm learning even before that, like how to transition and to care for your body and for pregnancy. And most women were just exhausted. And so I didn't return back to the classroom, but I did start to do a mentoring program with the Teach for America. I was pretty much a teacher mentor. And so, but in my birthing space, I had this natural birth. It was drug-free, and I had a doula. And she, in that room, I kind of committed to like, I kind of knew I wouldn't go back to the classroom. Cause I had like this baby that was attached to me. I had to nurse her. and I had work, and I had to pick myself up from the domestic thing. So in the birthing space, I pretty much said, like, I had this emotional moment with my doula. After I did it, she would not let me fold or give up, because I worked so hard on my birth plan. And she was a sister of color. She wasn't Black, but she read my plan. She held me accountable. And when I wanted to, like, give up on everything that I promised Maya and myself and my mom and my, her dad, she didn't let me fold. So I made the commitment to serve as a doula. And then through that through that Teach for America program, I met, like, my first doula mom. She kind of, like, just, like, was like, you my person. And I was like, cool. And that's how I got started. Her name, I'm sure she won't care. Her name is Nina Robertson. She pretty much, I was like one of the first people that she told, and she was like, what am I gonna do? And I was like, I got all these books. I know, I've been planning. I was like, we got 40 weeks. Like, we work together. You can ask me any questions. And she will always see me. I would come to NAS to pump. And she would always be curious, like, what are you doing? I would come everywhere to pump. Like, I think Shiloh, like, here, everywhere that was clean, or, like, would be, I need to get to work or my next meeting, and I need my milk to, like, be in the fridge or whatever. And so I made that commitment. She was my first, like, kind of proxy. And then I just kept going from there. And I got really serious about breastfeeding, like, giving her a healthy start. And I just did it by any means necessary. A lot of relationships didn't survive. Like, a lot of jobs didn't really understand. A lot of people didn't understand. But I was serious about, like, not intentionally exposing her to things that I knew would harm her. And so I pretty much went on this journey to, like, learn foods and practices, and to get serious about my pumping routine, to, like, be clear with jobs, my family, because it was like I was her, like, walking food source. And so everything that was coming through me, not just food, experiences, energy, and everything. And I'm very introverted, and so to have a baby attached to me with that need, and then to have people have all the talk about it, but no one was really educated about what I was doing, or if they were, they just were ignorant and used to say stuff that could potentially stress me out. And then I wasn't trying to let anything get in between my milk supply. So I just got real gangster with it and started to be an activist online. And, like, if family was telling me they didn't want my breast out, I would, like, post it online. I would, like, breastfeed. If my daughter wanted it, it was time. It was just something everywhere. Like, there are pictures of me almost everywhere. And that's just how it became a thing. It was kind of long, but that's the journey. That's the story. I became a homeowner here in 2019, and still been in the fields doing the doula work, helping mothers, doing the peer coaching, and just being that emotional support for them, and reminding them that, like, yo, you have everything that you need right now. You have food, you have water, and you have breasts, or if you got one, there are ways for us to get some human milk for your baby, to meet your goals. And most of it is health goals for the mother too. When it got tough for me and I could have gave up on my baby, it was the numbers around how breast cancer would decrease, how my mental wellness would be better. Like, I had a purpose to live. And so it was because once my child saw me, she was gonna be like, she needed some milk. And so, I just started to have those conversations one-on-one and start to encourage women as I can. And that's been it.
Yeah, I know a lot of women are not as knowledgeable when it comes to the doula work, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know that you work with moms. So how is it when it comes to, educating them on it, like not knowing what they can and don't have to do, like learning to advocate for themselves? Like, how do you encourage them to do that?
Yeah. So a doula, years later, I'm trying to kind of get away from the term, and I do acknowledge, like, it's a white term. It literally means a female slave that tends to people who are birthing.
Okay.
And so I know that I pumped it up really bad. I mean, really loudly for like 6 years. So I want to say that and just preface that. So African and indigenous people have had birthing people who are assigned to tend to us since the beginning of time. They've had herbs, they've had rituals, they've had ceremonial things. They've had people or little children that just got quote unquote hands or who are touched to do that work. And people stand back and allow them to do it spiritually. So my doula was the first person that taught me about being a doula. And my best friend, when I was like 6 weeks pregnant, she was like, so what you gonna do? Where you gonna birth? What do you want? Do you know you can do natural? And I was like, I didn't know any of this. And so 30 weeks, when I was 30 weeks with Maya, I went for my checkup, and the OB, he was an older white guy. And I pretty much just did a 15-minute checkup, did my thing, put the cup, peed in the cup, whatever. I was reading about the emotional thing to like birth, but and how to do that, but I wasn't understanding that I had options still, because I felt like I was under a certain medical plan, and I just felt like it was easier. It was like a one-stop shop clinic. And he said, I told him about 30 weeks. He so basically tried to push me through, so you're gonna do this birth this way. And I stopped him and said, told him what my plans was for natural birth. And he said, quote unquote, I kind of want to find this guy at this point. But he said, you people always come in, he said, you people always come in here and say, basically, you're gonna do natural. And he was basically and most of you don't do it. So I said, all right. I kind of went through you're pregnant, your emotions are going. I have 10 weeks, maybe 7 if I get to full term. I don't got time to be playing with you. And then I didn't have a support system. I was in Boston alone. Maya's father was still here in Minnesota, and my mother was in Chicago. So I needed a person. And so I went to the desk and I was like, what are my other options? Because he cannot be on my service. And I think doulas remind you that you have the right to kick people off of your service, medical service. If you do not feel safe, if you do not feel like they are helping you or they're being biased or whatever, you have the right to say, I do not feel, look them in their eyes, tell them you do not feel comfortable with them being on your service. And the woman got excited. She was like, well, we have midwives, we have doulas, and this and that. And I heard the term. I watched some of the documentaries with all the white women who had doulas, and I didn't think it was accessible to me. But she was like, no, if you don't want him, cool. This is the option. I was like, it's been 30 weeks I've been dealing with this man. So fired him. Didn't say anything to him. Next, I need a midwife, got the midwife. And then the doula, she recommended that I have a support system, because about 34 weeks I went in. So it's 30 weeks and then 34 weeks, I see this difference, this white, hippie woman. She all flowery, she smells good, she's happy, she's excited, she's pumping up my body. That's what I needed. And she even she was like, so who's part of your birth plan? And I was like, me. And she was like, no, you should get a doula. I was like, what? Okay. And she gave me this packet, and she was like, they're emotional support people who are advocates for you, and they will help we work through a birth plan, and they will listen to you and listen to your body. And so I didn't know if my daughter's father was gonna make it. I was in Boston again, he was in Minnesota, and he waited to the exact moment that my water broke to get on the plane. And so, it was unclear whether or not he would even make it. And so my mother, she was there the day of my mom was there. He got there real quick. He got there 7 hours. But when you're laboring and contracting, that is a long time. And so that's how it started. I met my doula kind of that week. It was virtual. They assigned me to an old white lady. I accepted it because it felt better than the older white man, because I felt like he really just wanted to be up inside of me and touch me, and that's why he was trying to tell me that I couldn't do it. And so that's what the doula, when I saw her and I talked to her on the phone the first time and I looked through the pictures on the website, I did a little prayer. like kind of universal prayer. And I was like, God, let everything fall in place how it needs to. And I was like, I don't feel like this lady is my person, but if she got something that I need. So the older white, because on the web, it was this community doula program. It was free. I kind of have no money to pay for anybody or anything. I had insurance, but it wasn't paid through the insurance, but the clinic had a partnership with this community doula place. So when I spoke to her, she pretty much honed in on the birth plan and like communicating my needs. But when I looked at the picture and read her description, it just didn't feel like it was a good match. Then I saw this Puerto Rican woman, her description, her picture on the website, I could kind of feel her energy. I was like, this is my person. And so when I called back, they were like, yeah, her name's Yael. So if this ever reaches her, like, she's the best person in the world. They was like, yeah, she's booked, and it's the person you assign to. And remember, like, now I'm at 35 weeks, 36 weeks. I got to meet this person. I got to really choose them. They got to choose me. And then it has to work. And then I said that prayer. So my water breaks at like 7. I call Maya's dad first, like, yo, it's water break. Midwife said it's a go. Call my mom. I checked in with the doula, and the lady wasn't available. She was somewhere else. So I was like, I want Yael, and they sent her. And so she showed up. So when we were going into the hospital, I was in labor for like 25 hours, and she was there for about 17 of those hours. And so a doula or a birth worker, a birthing companion, your sister friend, your cousin, somebody who's done it before, is a person who provides emotional support. It can be spiritual, it can be physical. You need somebody just to hold you up, behind you. And the educational piece is really like, how much do you want to dove into the practices of what I focus on is a physiological birth. Like, you're allowing your body, you're taking care of your body as best as you can under the circumstances with the resources that you have for the birth. And then when spirit, when the universe, when the water break, whatever happens, when the baby says time, you surrender to that, and then you get active, and you're a biped person. You stand up and allow gravity to help. And so a lot of people, you can take classes with the doula. They can provide resources and recommend something based on what you're saying you want, or they can kind of, I like for people to interview me kind of, because with the radical revolutionary doula, it's pretty much very political. And it's pretty much like I'm not even going to let you put yourself in a situation that you can kind of get in trouble for or something. And so, and that's including your health and your wellness and your preparation on preparing the child into the world. And so we mother the mother. And so the word transformed to like slave person, to like companion, to like the person who mothers the mother. I take care of her while she's laboring or while she's preparing to nurse or whatever, so that she could just focus on the child. And then if the partner is involved, if they want to be involved in it, then it's the coaching piece around like what positions, what foods, what teas and herbs. I have a lot of certifications around it. And so I like for people, kind of like when you're in education, you have an individualized learning plan. And everybody should have that, whether or not you have special educational needs or not. You should know your learning style. And I think the same thing with birthing, like what type of emotional support that you need. You can choose, I like to like say it like this, like you can choose like the earthy, crunchy jazz that's like, yeah, cool, whatever you want, okay, And then you can choose the revolutionary person that's like, sis, no, like this is absolutely not. Like you cannot be eating this every day, like your blood pressure is up, like, and then it's the person in between, which is like, I did the best with what I had with the resources, and I'm a walking library for birthing. Like I've been studying birthing for like 9-10 years now. And so I've been to 60 births, like I've observed, I've been in classes, I've passed them, like, and so then it becomes like, do you want to do hypnobirthing? Do you want to have your male partner or your person that you procreated with to be the main coach? And then I have to work with them to kind of teach them what to do in the event that I cannot make it. Because I mean, it's a human world, and sometimes your doula, like, it might not be available when your labor starts. So you have to be emotionally well enough, and we have a team to kind of pick up. And that's why I work with them on the birth plan, where it's like, it's a template, it's a preference, it puts it on paper. Everyone that should be on your service should know, should agree, and should respect your wishes, again, unless it's a medical emergency, and then it's like, you being super neglectful and like the child's life is at risk, and then the people on the team are kind of like, we're gonna have to choose plan B or something.
So you had said something about the hip motion.
Yeah, hypnobirthing.
Yeah.
So hypnobirthing is using water and gravity, and it's using the surges, like your body is opening up, but it's creating this like container around you so that like you're birthing in the water and you can surrender. But there's like affirmations and things, colors and lights that we can put in the room to kind of allow your body to kind of surrender. And then that's when you can have things like the orgasmic birth, or when you can have people who've had traumatic experiences to their womb or to their pelvis or their trauma, where they can kind of go in the zone and be hypnotized, basically. So it's a course that you take, that you practice, and then it works to the max, where you're like, okay, now you're in active labor, they freaking out, and we're like, and now we about to go into what we've been practicing, like turn the lights out, put the red on, like put on your affirmations, and then like we just surrender in the water until the baby comes out. And so, and you can have an orgasm as it's happening, and you could kind of do that without the water, but I mean, with the warm water and like the sensations and stuff, it's kind of like amazing to have that. I have never been asked to do that. And there are 2 people in this world that have birthed with, that if they have asked me and needed it, I would have gotten it. I feel like it's like you get in, and it's like they're transparent. Most of them have to tell me everything. They don't, but most do, about their medical health. And if you're well, like your body fluid saying, you ain't got nothing that I can catch, I don't have any things, like I can get anything, and you need the support, you might need somebody to be behind you, because some women run from birthing. Like they close up, they run, they try to like, and it's like, I am case, like, and so I personally almost had one, and that was my request at my birthing partner, which was her father, to get in, and he was like, he declined. And I think if he would have got in, I would have had an orgasmic birth, because I had to get up, walk to the bed, because they was freaking out, because I was like, about 5 minutes before that, I was like, I gotta poop. And I was like, oh, it's nothing. You've been laboring for fucking ever. And I was like, yo, whatever, just try. And I was like, nah. And then it just came out. And then the surges were coming, and I kind of was like feeling the energy move up. And then I looked at my doula and my mom, and I was like, y'all, she just coming. I'm not even doing anything. And so he should have got in the water with me, but he didn't. Because I would have had like the brace behind me, and it would have been easier to get her out. But he didn't do it, so I got back in my zone, right? My doula got me back in order, and my doula gave me to go. She was like, oh, just shut up, just breathe. And she was like, let it happen. And I was looking at her, and my mom was like, the baby's coming out. And she was like, get the nurse. It was no nurses and no midwife, just us in there and my doula. The lights were going low. And I have a video of me laboring in the water before that moment. And then they come rushing in, they're like freaking out, getting started, turn on the lights. And I'm like, right as I'm about to like have the energy come out in the baby. And then they made me get out of the water, because they reminded me that I was at Boston Brigham's hospital, and I could labor in the water, but I could not deliver. And had I had known that, I would never have been there. And so they made me get out as her head was crowning and walk to the bed. I swear to God. And Maya went back up, and I went on my back, and I pushed for 40 minutes. And so my video is of me pushing for 40 minutes, now trying to push up the uphill of one, I should have never been on my back, because now I have to exert my energy to push. and my body had just, because you have something called a fetal ejection like sensor in your vagina, that once they get there and the energy is right and the stuff is all working inside your body, you expel the baby. And so most people don't get there, and then when we're inviting people into our birthing space and we're allowing medical people to interact, they kind of interfere with the natural process, right? And so if I could go back, I would do that. And so the advocate piece is just reminding women, like, no, she said no, she will not get out. What y'all going, like, if we said no, like, what are you going to do? Like, are you gonna pull me out of the pool and make me get on my back? And my daughter's father would have never allowed that, and no one would have allowed that. And your doula shouldn't, and no one else. And so just reminding people that you have choices. Now, what I do want to preface is, like, each state has their own laws around certain things. And so the revolutionary radical piece comes around knowing your rights, knowing what you can decline, knowing what is not a medical emergency. My daughter and I were not at medical, there was no risk, nothing was happening. I was fully alert. I didn't need medical assistance. I didn't need intervention. And so, but we were so in it and we didn't know, right? Because we had got so far and we kind of were like, my doula was like, yeah, I told you, just do it, you know? And her, you know, she was ready to catch if she needed to. My doula was very...
Yeah, they didn't need the doctors.
We didn't need them. Like, if I could do it again, I wanted to stay home. When that guy said what he said, I had a little apartment, I wanted to stay home, but I did not have the money to change the plan. And so the Women in Brigham's Hospital is a world-renowned hospital. And so when I went to do the tour, I was under the impression that I could labor wherever I needed to, and that they would intervene if they needed to. And so everything pretty much worked out. After that, I had a beautiful birthing experience anyway. But if I could turn it back, that those are the moments that I remind women when they say, like, this is what I want. You can actually have that in the hospital. You can request their policies, and then you want to, because if you're well, if you're healthy, if you have a clean place in your home, they're in the middle of a pandemic, you're going out of your home to seek care, you're risking your life as you traveling there, and then you going and you handing over a lot of your rights, because they do still have policies. Like, that's why I say, when I do take those revolutionary clients, I say, like, you have the right to your birth. Like, you have the right to know what their expectations are and to push back on the things that are, again, not a medical emergency, that you don't have to intervene. And that's like with taking your placenta home. That's why with lotus birthing, that's why with your right to breastfeed and not be separated from your baby, no matter what kind of birthing outcome you've had, C-sections, the baby's in the NICU, certain things like that, you have the right to request it and to leave. If you are well enough to leave, you can leave. At the birth center, you get discharged 4 to 6 hours after you've given birth. And the midwife comes to you to do the checkup.
Yeah, I'd be like, if I could have redid my birth for my kids, I'm like, I would have said no, or I would have did this, you know, because you're thinking that what the doctor's telling you, like, that's law. That's it. Mm-hmm. And you's like, okay, that's what they said. I don't know no better, right? Because I wasn't educated on it. And so I'm going to go with what you say. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do what you say, even if I feel like it's not what I want, but okay, right?
Yeah. See, so in America, we kind of been set up to engage in Western medicine. And birthing has been, like, hijacked by capitalism. And so most medical students that are really, like, working on birthing, they don't really, honestly, I'm telling you, I be in there, like, going article to article, research to research, like, what? Come on, this is garbage. And I just know that it's a little chapter, they just assume, and they speak to us as if they are the authoritative figure of our medical care. This is what we're gonna do. Mm-hmm. No, you're gonna tell me about what's going on, you're gonna diagnose this, you're gonna give me my options. And if you are not able to answer my questions, you're gonna give me some time to think if it's not a medical emergency. You are a consultant. I'm allowing you to be on my service again, to be all up. If you need to go all up in my body, if you need to take care of me when I cannot speak to you and tell you yes or no, that is a trust, right? And some people, it's that communication piece. That's why I believe in hybrid care. I believe in choose the doctor. If you want to OB, cool. But choose someone that's not going to like passively gaslight you or abuse you. And in the event that you might not know and you're not sure, they're not going to take your ignorance for granted, or they're not going to like put you in a situation that can lead you down an intervention or a slope, or can put you in a situation where you have a medical emergency. And then some of our women can't afford that, right? They need to like kind of have a natural birth, and they kind of need to go that year and take care of themselves. Like, but they do want to cut and they do want to control. And that's that atypical thing of like doctors. And it's just a matter of like building the relationship. Cause I've had it too. Like I shouldn't have to go into my doctor or my pediatrician and say, I'll be putting my credentials on the table. Like, look, okay, like, like the pediatrician told me it didn't matter if I nursed her past 6 months, and I was like, get out of here. Next time we went to the visit, you know, my daughter's father, I was like, she's off limits. She doesn't even get to speak to me about nursing now. And then I later learned that it was because she couldn't nurse. Mm-hmm. So you bring in your experience and your bias, and this is a Black child that already has so many things against her. Mm-hmm. It matters to me that I nurse her. At the end, I was trying to go 18 months. She was only 6 months. I had a whole year to go. I need you to be pumping me up. I need you to be reminding me that toddlers that nurse to 2 years have their so much, you know, things going on, especially in terms of growing and protecting their immune system. And so, yeah, my daughter's father, we allowed her to care for her a little bit after that, but I just reminded him that like, yo, I'm her mother. Like, she attached to me. She slept with me. She still sleep with me. Like, she is mine, and you can't tell me that it's not a benefit, because and it's not just a benefit to her, it's a benefit to me to keep going. So, yeah, I think that, and then when you do sit in the classes and you sit down, because most human beings do not know about anything about birthing. Most of the people that live on earth right now, because we have modern society and technology and Western medicine, we do not know how birthing takes place. We don't know what we need. I learned that during the pandemic. I feel like every home should have a birthing kit. Your neighbor might need it, you might need it, baby might come anytime. We don't have anything. And so that's why we're afraid, and that's why we do hand over our ownership of our birth or of our baby's birth feeding plans. Every time I went in there emotional, there's formula, and try to push me like drug dealers. Push, here's this bag, we got this for free. I'm telling you on my paperwork, I'm exclusively breastfed mother. You shouldn't even bring that in the option unless I'm requesting it. And so things like that you can do to tweak. And we do have the opportunity to build a really dope team, It's some caregivers and people in Minnesota that are doing great work, that are taking women's preferences and they're shaping it into a plan that it works for them, and they're having better outcomes. I think Minneapolis, I've lived in Chicago on the south side. I lived on the west side of Detroit. They had a hood in Boston. It's a hood everywhere. It's an urban area everywhere. North Minneapolis has so much potential. Again, like I said, I taught children. I've seen children that I've taught 20 years ago, kind of like, I used to be up here, or like 15 years ago, but they're growing up and they're still living here. And since I became the teacher, I wanted to see it thrive. I want it to be known, even like the author piece. It's people who live on my block or around that are like, I've never met an author, or I don't know what a doula is, or the kids being like, what y'all doing next summer, And I chose to be a homeowner because I was working at an organization that was working on home ownership, and I was having housing instability issues as a person who had a master's degree, as a person who had money saved, like all type of things. And so what I decided was, basically, you know, when I lost one of my students, I think my heart has been here since then. And so it's dangerous everywhere. I've been out of the country and have seen people get robbed. I've seen people get shot. Like, I've had some incidents with gun violence. It's no other city that I would rather be in. In North Minneapolis, I just couldn't see myself going to spend my money and my investment and my asset in another area. Now, no disrespect, but like, you know, the other areas, they're not for me. And so I bought my house in the area where I could walk to work. I could bike to work, you know, and that's why. And again, like, I've made little promises along the way. And I committed to be here through it all. And it's not easy. Like, trust me, it's not. Just last month, like, things have happened around my house, to myself, and to people that I love. And it's still like, I think we can get it together here. And I think my presence, I have a big garden on my yard. Like, I'm always out there with the children. People are always asking me. People be asking me about breastfeeding and birth and stuff at Cub. And so, yeah, I did build wealth, Minnesota. I went through their program, and I just could not deal with another slumlord in North Minneapolis. I couldn't deal with another apartment building, and I just felt safer protecting myself and my domain with just saying I'm here. This is my home. I want to invest in the schools and the areas around, because I want to see it do well, and I want, I just want
better tomorrow.
A better tomorrow, yeah, because it gets heavy. It gets a lot. I'm a nature person, and I have to leave here, not escape, but I have to go on retreats, and I have to go to the south or other areas that remind me that it's bigger. It's bigger than North Minneapolis, but North Minneapolis is where I want to do my work. And so, that's why. And I hope more people become homeowners, because it really does set the tone that this is our community, this is our area. And
homeowners in North Minneapolis.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. And you said homeowners, I'm like, but you mean in like here?
Because now gentrification, it's just like we're seeing it. We were just as we were walking here, we're seeing the Broadway, this corridor change and shift, and we're seeing certain areas being invested in and other areas aren't. And we're seeing leaders that don't even live in this zip code, like, own stuff. And like, I feel like we have enough money, savings and ante-ups to where you can live close to your family or your friends. And it was important to me that I'm an earthy person. It's important to me that I'm reducing my carbon footsteps. So I don't need to drive everywhere, and I don't need to, you know, be all over, cross rivers everywhere all the time either. And so, yeah, I want to see home births here. I want to be invited to a home birth that I could walk to, or that I could bike to, or that I could run to if I need to. Like, with my backpack. Yeah. And I also understand why people growing up here decide to leave when it becomes too much of the reminders that the same thing is happening. The same thing is happening. You know, when I lost my student years ago, it's still happening. And so, I'm still struggling to go back to my home cities and see it too. And that's why I'm a transplant. Like,
so, how do you keep hope? Like I'm here, I'm staying, this is where I'm at, and I want my daughter to grow up. And
it's the kids. It's the children. Like, when I moved here, my baby was 3 months old. I had just given birth to her in January. And by April, I was back to work. If she was attached to me. I wore her for 2 years. I nursed her for 3 years. She knows babies that are growing up. They're kind of like her community cousins. Like, and it's so much. It is good stuff, you know. It's a lot
definitely.
Of like little
you have
stuff
to be
going
here
on.
to actually, you know, if you're reading the paper, it make it sound all bad, but you have to be involved. You have to know it. Like you have to actually be here to understand it.
When it was I launched my garden in my yard when the quote unquote riots that was happening here happened. And the uprising. I started my garden as I was smelling the community burning, as I was hearing people like robbing people, doing all kind of stuff. And I just stood my ground and I just reminded the children it was a safe place for them to come. And so even my daughter, like we went through little drills and stuff and the kids would come right to us. And like, if there any event that something happens, like we could look out for each other. And so, and also, you know, I'm recovering from, I have PTSD and like that need to like go and, you know, get into it or something with like people who are literally, and I was seeing it was people that really didn't feel like from here, you know? And so I kind of just got in that space where I'm like, this is the best use of my time. I always tell my clients or people who I'm really telling now, like, I'm at home. The revolution is at home first. Like every household needs to be as well as it can. Every link, every person, and that's how we're gonna like kind of take care. Like I remember in Detroit when certain things used to happen, it used to be grandmothers, aunties, uncles, and people that and the drug dealers and the gangbangers that was just like, it was certain things that are off limits. Like you don't shoot at schools, you don't shoot at people when they got their kids with them. And the North Side just is like, because it's people siphoning resources from here, to be honest. And so it's a lot of pressure on people. And I just feel like it's so much for us to deal with, but it's like, this is the work. Like, this is the people that the system have kind of like dropped here, it feels like, and left. And like, how many times when y'all had community cooks and stuff, that was people's meals, you know, for taking care of them and it was like they might have been on drugs or whatever, but it's like, yo, we having a conversation, it's what we talking about, we got food, it's safe, it's kids here. And I think that's what helps people be well. Like, but that was wild, like smelling it burning and like seeing some of the places go down and being like, this is really happening.
So we flipped to food talking, so now I want to ask you. Of course, I know that you're vegan. Was you always vegan, or when did you change that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was not always vegan. I was raised in a Southern household. My grandmother cooked Southern meals every single. My grandma cooked 7 days a week. We might have had Chinese sometimes or something, but for the most part, my grandma cooked meals every single day. I ate liver and pig feet and chicken and all types of stuff.
Liver and pig feet? You cold, because I ain't touching it.
I was forced. So when I went to college at Carleton College, I observed the eating practices of people who came from other cultures, and I noticed that they were eating things that I did not know what it was. Chickpeas, arugula, they was weighing their food. They was like, oh, I'm vegan, I'm this, I'm that. And I was like, oh, I just been having gas forever. I didn't know it was a thing, like lactose intolerant. Or, I'm not eating well, I'm eating for my emotions, and to have this white lady or someone who's like, oh yeah, like my therapist said that I should have more berries because it helps with depression. And my idea and my consumption thought process around food shifted, because this was the first time in my life that I was responsible for feeding myself, for choosing my meals. I had a meal plan and they had everything that you could want. Like, you can come in, you can eat like breakfast, lunch, dinner if you got a plan. Hopefully y'all have plans. If you don't, like, you need a friend that got some extra spending cash or something. And then I started then. So it started in college, and I began to like weave out kind of things that I was eating that I didn't want, that didn't make my body feel good, or that was impacting my mental wellness. And then I became a teacher. I needed more energy. It wasn't enough time in the day, and then I kind of left some more stuff out. Then I got pregnant with my daughter, and I kind of went like, oh, I'm going now, whatever the best organic that I can afford. And at one point we were on food stamps, and I was still shopping at Whole Foods. I was just buying certain things and products that I felt like I wanted to use to build. I was thinking about building her brain while she was in my womb. And so that's pretty much, and then it kind of, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, the PTSD, and I had an experience with righteous rage, and I saw red, I saw violence, I wanted to hurt somebody, and I started to realize that like some of the meats and things that I was eating was making me very violent. And so then one day I just got up and I was like, it's the smell of the meat made me sick. And then I kind of was like, after that, you can't pay me to go back because it doesn't feel good. And then I was eating for breastfeeding, but then I was eating. So the first year I was kind of like Maya. She calls herself I choose. She don't like vegan, and her dad, he does what he does. And when she's with him, he prepares her food, and he buys her food. So, but we both have tried to allow her to choose from the best righteous place that we can. And so that's pretty much how it started. And then I learned about juicing and fasting and herbs and different things to help build my thyroid back up and to keep my milk going. And so when I was nursed, so the food piece for breastfeeding started that first 3 months with Maya, because I was living with my godparents. And they were preparing the food, and I wasn't eating any of the food because I was like, this is not good for breastfeeding. This ain't gonna make no milk. Like, I need more energy. And I started making these energy balls. So the recipe that I'll share is like it's an energy ball that provides more energy, but it has galactagogues in it that are like foods that help your body prepare for making milk. And so I would make them all the time. And my goddad, he would just keep eating them. And one day, I was like, them my breastfeeding balls, right? And then my family started to kind of like eat them and started to give them. And it's not breast milk in it or anything. It's like flax seeds and like some nuts and stuff and things that kind of, but then even now to this day, he's like, he calls me or asks me sometimes like, what's the recipe to them breastfeeding balls that you made? And so I kind of was when I set myself on my goal, I was a person that if someone told me I had to eat something, I just tried it out. So oatmeal, I used to eat oatmeal like 2-3 times a day sometimes, like because you need more calories, you need more fat, and you need more protein, and you got to take in more water. And so that's how to kind of look at it as like your body. People are getting offended by the machine like analogy. As an athlete, I don't like your body is a machine, and you gotta put in it and work it and like, but your body is like this well-defined like system, and some of us haven't been well to ourselves. And so that's why a lot of people stop breastfeeding because they're not eating well in combinations or not eating foods that are helping. Like, this is one big one since it's coming up. I just gotta share. Since Thanksgiving, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but that day, sage is something that you shouldn't be intaking when you are breastfeeding. So people, they're like, I had my baby in October, everything was good, milk was flowing. Thanksgiving came, I ate all this, blah, 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 and I'm like, did you have the dressing or the stuff in? Did it have sage in it? Did they overdo it? And that's when it started clicking to people that it's like, okay, someone else might eat that and it might not be a problem, but you might be a person that has an adverse effect to it. Mm-hmm. So I ask people, and I make them to do a food journal, a diary. It's not to judge you or to, think that you might be able to afford the organic wild-caught turkey that I was buying when I was pregnant with Maya or something. But what can we substitute these things for that's going to help you reach your goals? Mm-hmm. And so for me, I wanted to have energy to be with my child, and I needed to pump because I was preparing to go back to work. And then I worked as a working mom, and I continued to pump for 2 years after. And so it's really like you have to eat
You was pumping, or you just pulling out the boobie?
All of the above. All of the above.
I'm like, I seen boobs, right?
Yeah. I pumped for Maya for 2 years until 2. Mm-hmm. And then after 2, she pretty much did the toddler nursing thing. And then it was so much food. Yeah, that toddler nursing is like, support. You gotta have a team. Like, you gotta have people who are willing to pay for them extra food or the extra stuff that you need. And I pumped, and then at 2, I didn't really pump anymore because the toddler milk, it's some people that's getting ounces and stuff, but I just wasn't that person, like, that was getting the ounces at that point. And I was tired of carrying around the pump. And she nursed. So at that point, they could talk, they can advocate for themselves, they can tell you what they don't want, what they do want, and then they can say, like, yo, I'm ready to nurse, and you could just nurse them. So that's when it's like, when I'm out and about, I'm talking, she would just come sit on my lap, I'll just nurse her, no big deal. It's just somebody, a baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool.
I got one last question.
Okay.
So you said stop pumping at 2, stop nursing at 3.
Yeah.
How you get her off? Did she stop herself, or was it fighting?
That's a good question. You want to talk about it? Huh? You want to talk about why you stopped nursing? Oh. Yeah, one day. So exactly 3 days before Maya turned 3, we were preparing for her 3rd birthday party. She had asked me to buy her this little vest that was fancy. She had a purse. We got up 3 days before she turned 3. Usually, as soon as she gets up, as soon as we recognize it, or sometimes, even if you do not recognize or consent, you might wake up, baby might have boob in your mouth, might just have to be like, okay. So we woke up, we started to go through our day. I didn't offer, she didn't ask, I went to work. I pumped when I got to work. When I came home, when I picked her up from daycare, she was like, where the milk at? Where the breast milk? And she asked for the little, I had pumped maybe about 2 ounces. She asked for it, she drank it, and I was like, that's it. I don't know why I was pumping, because she wasn't nursing as much, or she was nursing at different times, so my body was kind of running through that. And then it felt kind of disrespectful to do all that work during the day, to be collecting 0.5 ounces, and then it's 2 ounces, and then she's like, okay, thanks. And so that was it. 3 days went by. Now, the next week, she did ask. And then I did allow her to try, but I didn't really have too much milk. And years later, she had still asked, like, what's up with the breast milk? And so I have to one time when she turned 4, she was like, so it's really not there? Like, you really don't have none? I really don't have none. And you're 4, right? Like, no, we've been over this, it's over. And she was like, let me see. And I was like, okay. I mean, I squeezed it first. She said, no, let me see. And she was like, she wanted to latch, right? And she wanted to try to see if she could get a letdown. And she couldn't get it. And so I flirted with the idea of relactating. And I've attempted it, and I think I'm gonna try to do it to see if it's possible after all these years. And so, yeah, you can use the breast milk for so many other things other than them drinking it too.
What are some other things other than athletes drinking?
Yeah. So athletes drink it because it has a lot of electrolytes in it. It has that high fat content. It has the extra calories. They buy it, they purchase it, bodybuilders purchase it, people who have AIDS or cancer purchase it because it creates antibodies that help protect your body. And so breast milk, you can make like lotions with it. You can use it for pink eyes. It really does make your face glow if you put it. I haven't done that. But if you use it on your face, if the baby has eczema breakouts, you could put it. If you really about the sustainable living life and you are a family that shares certain things, you can bake with it. You can put it in your coffee. Like, it's not for everybody, but it is like it's some husbands and some men that really are like, so is this milk for me or the baby? And it's in the refrigerator and they using it, and I can contest that this happening. Yes, they are black. Like, and the men are requesting it. Like, and so I do want to drop, because since we've been on that revolutionary piece and telling your story, if you're a woman who is having an issue, if you have someone in your family that's close to you, if you have a sister friend, if you have a person that you can be connected to that kind of lives the same lifestyle, that you feel comfortable sharing medical records with, or just them being transparent with, you can use that donor milk to help your baby. You can use it for baby. You can, if you're a woman who oversupplies. It's some women that's still pumping their milk, not because they have babies at home that are latching, because their bodies literally will not stop making milk. And they have birthed 5 years, 8 years.
And still.
And because they didn't stop it, and they are so connected, because you can care about a baby or hear a baby cry, you can have a letdown. And so they just have been pumping it. They might donate it to people in the NICU. They might give it to I know a woman right now who is a grandmother who is still lactating, and her grandbabies give her milk sometimes. Like, they wet nurse in their family. And so to me, that's super uber revolutionary. And she's a grandmother.
What's wet nurse?
Yeah, it's a great question. Wet nursing is a term that started during slavery. It is basically a person who is lactating, who is willing or made or forced to latch another baby. And hey, if some breastfed babies, if you are with them, they will not take a bottle. And if that's your cousin, and I would tell people when I was latching, like, and if you need to come to me, and I won't judge you. I'll tell you what the situation is with my milk and my lifestyle set up, and if you agree with it, I would have no problem doing it if I had it, you know.
I don't think no breastfeeding mother have a problem with feeding somebody else's baby, because it's a norm. Like, it's a baby.
And the baby and people, so the wet nursing, and one of my clients, my best friend, did it. She was in the hospital having post complications from a C-section. Her sister is nursing her baby. Her sister was tandem nursing a toddler and a little baby. And the other baby, the cousin, just fell in line in the rotation, and she got what she needed. The mom didn't have the pump set up or the backup milk. And I feel like what's the outcome is you're going to watch that baby starve right there. They're going to be crying in distress, and you're worrying about it being sexualized, which I can understand that, but we're humans. Like, we are human people that make milk from our bodies without really doing too much. And so I don't understand why it's so hard for a lot of people to kind of get there. Then that's the next step, right? Your nephew is with you, got some milk. I don't want to go to sleep. Like, look, come here.
Right.
And I've never done it, you know, but I have been very open with people. And even my journey to relactate is because there are a few moms now who have had babies recently who have expressed that they are scared and afraid of the shortage of the other feeding option. And so I've let it be known, look, you might have to feed me, pay for some meals or something, but I can try it, and I don't know if it'll work, you know, because it works better with the wet nursing situation, because their saliva talks to your body and actually tells the body what it needs in that moment. Like, it's making milk and antibodies to protect that baby, whether it's yours or not. Like, it's not going to have the same impact because it's your child, but it's going to have better impact than having a food source that's dead. And a baby who is stressed, like, why put the baby through the stress? Like, they just breast, you know.
But like, but you know that they made breastfeeding like right? Like, they moved out of it, like, just buy the formula, feed the baby. It's quicker, it's safer, it's easier. I ain't gonna say it's safer, and just give it to them.
Well, that was marketing, and it was sold to us. It started in Africa. It was a whole campaign. It was a Nestle campaign. They targeted poor African women who they didn't really have the housing set up that they felt that was conducive to breastfeeding. And the company knew the benefit of breastfeeding. And so you can research this if you want to. women, it was sold to women as a luxury or higher up thing that wealthy people did on one side, but on the other side, for us poor people and the African women that were in villages, it was sold to them as a superior food source, and they didn't think that they was already enough because they were going through droughts. They didn't have enough food. They didn't have access to a lot of clean water either, and so that will impact your ability to make breast milk, because breast milk is 70 to 80% water. So then they sold them. They got them babies hooked on the formula, and the women could not afford to sustain the membership for the formula. So the African babies, they had digestive issues because the moms were like, and the moms could not, this is the one thing that's making me so upset. The mothers could not even read the instructions on the formula. So women, not only it's like, I don't got enough water, or if I do have enough water, it's not clean, but my baby's crying and I don't know that my breasts make milk, nor do I probably even have milk right now in this moment. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna water it down, right? I'm gonna add the water that I have. And babies got infections, they got sick, they died, but they did the researching there. And then they brought it to America, and the other countries shut it down. The other countries was like, no. And they brought it here. And then now it's being sold to us women. Look, and this is just so raw right now, but feminism is being like, you want to get to work, like let's detach you from this person that needs you so that you can go and do this, instead of let's include, in the first year or so, let's include this baby as a part of attachment to this woman. And so that way she can feed the baby well, the baby doesn't get sick as much, the mom doesn't get sick as much, and then the mom doesn't lose more time at work. It's pretty much like they set us up to give them formula.
Yeah.
And so that's what pretty much happened. And that's why now what's going on is just like the education piece is, if you knew that that was attacking your baby's digestive tract and making it susceptible to other things, and it's another added source that of income, you gotta have to buy it, or you have to have an institution or something that's giving you the food source. So you are giving your babies like gut health to them. And then now they say, oh, we just ain't making it no more. Now your baby is stuck on it, and nobody's titties are making milk in your house. Now what? We got the baby starving. Look, I ain't never did that, but
All right. So, I don't have any more questions to ask or whatnot. So if you don't got anything else to share, we could wrap it up. I see you have your book right there. If you wanted to talk about it for a little bit before we end the night.
So yeah, like I said, I had the doula work kind of got me recentered to myself, and then I had experience with postpartum depression and domestic violence that kind of left me on this whole journey of being an unpartnered mother and trying to figure out if I was going crazy. And so I wrote a book in 2016, and it's about the Black Superwoman complex and the idea of mothering through pain and having to be in silence because we're told that like we're
Please show us the book.
Oh yeah. We're told that we're like strong Black women. And so I went on this whole journey to like see if I was crazy, to be honest. Like the thoughts that I was having and all of that. And then, you know, I didn't really have the support. I was working. And so, yeah, so all of the funds for the book go to the doula work. So I run the Revolutionary Radical Doula Fund, and it's pretty much a donation base, or like sliding fee scale, access to doula services, yoni steam work, writing through your story, or just getting access to the resources that people need for birthing at home or birthing wherever they're going. And then, the book just kind of gave me an avenue to bring some money to the work, so that when women were coming and saying, you know, had they said I had to pay for a doula, I probably wouldn't have gone that route, because I just didn't feel, at the time, I didn't feel like I had it. But now, in retrospect, I would say I needed to reprioritize, and I needed to invest in the areas that were going to get me where I was needed to be. And so that's it. You could go to www.blacklotusmothershealing.org. It has access to the intake forms for doula work, and also I've been working on part 2 of the book for like 4 years.
Okay. looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, appreciate you for coming out and having this conversation with me.
It's been sweet.
Hey Maya, you didn't come on, but
I
yeah.
know. She said she was this time. This is the second
All
interview.
right, yeah, we good now.
All right, thanks y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You.